our positions, public positions. You all know that last week we, together with our colleagues and partners in the Holy Alliance, we outed this document, the proposed National Transition, Reform and Reconciliation Agenda. In this, together with our partners, GEMA, NEED, CP, and other democracy and change-seeking organizations, we put on table a proposal on how Uganda can move from the present state to the next, and how we can guarantee peace, stability, prosperity, and progress for everybody. This proposal revolves around largely three things. The first is transition. The second is reform. The third is reconciliation. We in the DP Bloc wholly subscribe to the ideas here because we think that in the present circumstances, those are the three medicines for Uganda in its current state: transition, reform, reconciliation. This document details our proposal, and when you go through it, there are very many interesting proposals on the table. We are put on the table for debate. Sadly, the media has not been able to amplify this document as you should. And of course we know why. It was because that we had another debate, the coffee bill, which was had a second reading in Parliament, and I think it's time for that reading. And that is why perhaps this did not receive as much prominence as it should. But we would like to request you and implore you to highlight these wonderful proposals that can take Uganda out of the looming crisis that we see. The crisis that has taken hold in countries like Libya, like Sudan, like Egypt, and more recently in Kenya, where a government was nearly overrun by young people who were actually crusading for better governance and for better life. I will in due course, revert to this. So while we were having this debate, while we were presenting this, there was a ensuing in Parliament debate on the coffee bill, to which we would also like to respond. This one we have also responded formally. You know, for us in the DP Bloc, we have gone to school. We are not like many other people. We put most of our positions in in writing, so that for ease of reference and for putting the record straight, we usually put most of our positions in writing. So we are going to further amplify on the transition agenda, and we are also going to put our position in the coffee together, because again, when you look at the situation, the answer, the cure to the coffee bill is again here. Is again here in our proposal. Whatever is happening in the Parliament and on the coffee bill, we give the cure here. So both positions are quite relevant. So let me first start with the position on coffee. We are saying that of public concern presently is the degeneration of the debate on the coffee bill into tribal and political diatribe. The very, very important bill has now been reduced to tribal arguments and political arguments. It's a very, very important bill. And we in the DP bloc are advising against such. We cannot be reduced to that level. All reasons being advanced for rationalization of UCDA are deliberately misleading. Government is not telling the full truths of its intentions. The government is giving us half truths. Why it is moving, is taking the direction it is. UCDA is not a parasite, as we have heard a very important leader in the country saying. Why is it not a parasite? It is presiding over the top money generating industry in Uganda. Coffee is one of the top money generating sectors in the Ugandan economy. It is not loss making like the Uganda Airlines, which has been loss making since inception. Uganda Airlines was revived, and all projections were that it would make losses for the past 5 years. But still, government went ahead and spent to promote our exports. We need to promote our agricultural outputs. We need to promote tourism. That is strategic enough for us to have a UA which is loss making. But coffee is not loss making. Actually, coffee is profit making. Now, and even if the coffee sector was making losses, government was duty bound to intervene rather than dissolve UCDA as it is trying to do. You know that it has done this for Atiak, sugar, billions of money going into a venture whose prospects are not even clear. You know that government has done this for Rocco, a private construction company. And you know that government has done this for Day Pharmaceuticals, whose ownership and even the land acquisition and the title are all in question. So if government has done this, why not for UCDA, even if we are loss making? Now, UCDA has a lot of potential. It can improve, and it can also be self-sustaining. The deep bloc has identified the following issues around UCDA. The first is a debate must be about harmonization of key stakeholder interests of the industry. This debate must not be about tribe, politics, and etc. But how do we now harmonize all these stakeholder interests? And we identify 3 stakeholders: the producer, who is the farmer; the other is the regulator, who is UCDA. UCDA must remain in that regulatory role, and we are going to justify that one. And the tax collector. The tax collector is government. Government is interested in coffee, must only be to collect its taxes and be happy to spend as they are spending. It must not be to interfere. So those are the 3 stakeholders. Major stakeholders, because the regulator is UCDA. Now the second issue is government has got no coffee farms. You remember it was the colonial series to have coffee farms, like in Lubowa. Entire Lubowa Hill was a coffee farm by the original initial colonial government, Uganda company. But that's no longer the case. Now when you go to Lubowa, it's just apartments, houses, residences, and etc. Another farms which government has. Government no longer has farms. All coffee producing is done by private persons, the farmers. Therefore, there cannot be schemes. We cannot entertain schemes by certain powerful individuals and interests who are trying to take full control of the industry and will create a monopoly in the coffee industry. That is not tenable. Government has got no role. The production is by private individuals. The best you can do is only regulate, but you cannot create a monopoly. Neither can you take control. As you see now, these schemes are just about taking full control and direction of the coffee industry. There are interferences in the operations of UCDA by government and other interests. Had the UCDA been left to flow, do its work, we would have better results. We would even have more volumes. We would even have more quality. Just like CMD, had it been left to perform, the 20 million bags of coffee we are talking about are in volumes from Uganda. I would likely now be maybe double that or triple that. So, what is happening here is not that UCDA is failing, but there is a lot of interference by government and other interests who want to hijack. Then we have also said, identified that the underperformance is caused by the duplication of roles by NADS and OWC. What business has NADS got to do in distributing coffee seedlings? What business has OWC got to do in distributing coffee seedlings and other inputs like fertilizers and etc.? That's not their business. It is the business of UCDA. But look at all the money OWC. Look at all the money going to NADS. So, it is the duplication. It is those institutions that are duplicating the roles of UCDA that are actually causing the underperformance of UCDA. If all those resources could be concentrated in UCDA, yes, we would have better results. Now, let's make it very clear that the DP Bloc supports rationalization 100%. We support it. We support the program of rationalization, and this can be further amplified by this very proposal we have here of the transition of the reforms that we need now when you go to page 8 and page 9. Page 8, page 9. We talk about those, actually largely page 9. That is when we talk about those consequential constitutional reforms. Rationalization is part of the reforms that we are calling for. And look at page 9. And we are saying that the debate on rationalization must ensue, and we allowed the move by government to rationalize these agencies. That one we allowed. And we are saying that it must not stop at agencies. It must continue. These ministries to the ministries and departments. We talk about it here. It must continue to cabinet. Rationalization is about downsizing and cutting costs. So it must now move from the 61 agencies, now go to government ministries. And some of these government ministries are redundant. They must be rationalized. Now you go to cabinet. You must rationalize cabinet, cut the 77 members of cabinet, and then parliament. This huge monster called parliament, 529 MPs. For what? So the rationalization must continue even to parliament. And we talk about it here, largely, in our proposed consequential constitutional reforms. That can be undertaken in there. So that one we allowed. But and rationalization, we state here that it is a key proposal in our recently published transition reform and reconciliation. It is here, page 9. We wholly support it, and it must continue. But however, strategic agencies, authorities should not be rationalized. While we support rationalization, not all agencies must be. Because there are those agencies of strategic nature, which include, for instance, URA, which include UCDA, which include National Meteorological Authority, NIRA, that touches our identity cards and our Bienkumu and all that. National Water and Storage Corporation. Water is life. It may not be profit-making, but because of the essential service it provides for the community, you cannot talk about rationalization. It must remain under a specialized agency. UCC, you cannot support rationalization of UCC. UNOC, and this is President Museven's position, Uganda National Oil Company. Okay, let us bring a motion in Parliament that we dissolve. UNOC, you will see the fire. You may not even get to the gates of Parliament. Uganda Petroleum Agency, Authority. If a private member of Parliament brought a motion that now this one reverts to a Minister of Energy, you can see guns blazing. And all of us will support because that's an agency of strategic nature. Now, the UCDA, as a successor to the CMB, which is the Coffee Marketing Board, is of strategic nature in the coffee industry. First, why is it strategic? You can just look at the contribution to foreign exchange earnings of the country. $1.3 billion. $1.3 billion foreign exchange earnings to Uganda. Contribution to household income and employment. 12 million, over 12 million Ugandans rely on the coffee industry for income and sustenance. 12 million, 12.5 million. So in terms of employment, in terms of livelihoods, in terms of household income, very, very key and strategic industry. Now, we all know that strategic export cannot be subject to ministerial bureaucracy and procrastination of civil servants. And it is this bureaucracy and procrastination which always brings about the low quality of services in government departments and ministries. So the bureaucracy in these government ministries is not in tandem, cannot be in tandem with the trends in that sector. Now the other element is of course the best practice. Because Uganda, when you have a scenario like this, then you refer to best practice. What is the best practice in the 10 best coffee producing countries in the world? One, they all have specialized agencies for coffee. That is why they all have comparative advantage. When you look at Brazil, which is number 1, Colombia number 2, Vietnam number 3, Ethiopia, Uganda there comes, Indonesia, India, Costa Rica, Honduras, Mexico. Look at the best practice there. What happens there? They all have specialized agencies for coffee. And that's why they're doing very good. That's why they're very competitive. So, if you are Uganda is among the 10 best coffee producing countries, then why do you want to be different? Why would you do it differently from the others? And you have been doing it very well anyway. Now, we all know that the most efficient services come from specialized institutions. Why? They have knowledge and expertise which they gather over a period of time. Specialized agencies have knowledge and expertise which they gather over a period of time, which is not the case for ministries. Now, when you return the coffee function to the Ministry of Agriculture, the Ministry of Agriculture is dealing with the ticks, it is dealing with the fish, it is dealing with the goats, with the pigs, with the dairy, with the it is got general functions. It is dealing with the tea, it is dealing with the yams, Irish potatoes, and etc., which don't attract as much, which don't get as much income as coffee does. So we are saying that because of the strategic nature of coffee, you cannot have a UCDA revert to the ministry. Now, we are saying that we should avoid tribal and political overtones. The tribal and political overtones that we have been treated to in the last 3 days are deplorable. Of course, they arise out of mistrust, suspicion of bad faith, misunderstanding of intentions, which is brought about by years of animosity. The years we have had of animosity between our cultural entities, our religious entities, our political institutions, are bringing about this mistrust and suspicion of bad faith and all this. And the cure to this is in engaging on a course of dialogue and putting in place a government-led national reconciliation and reparation process. You know, a statement like those Baganda. Those Baganda was, make sure those Baganda.
Don't get the numbers.
Don't get the numbers. Those are very, very unfortunate statements. Especially coming from number 3 in the country. And somebody who is presiding over a very, very important institution. Okay, we have seen explanations by the media, by the PR group, but that's still not sufficient. Such a statement is regrettable. And then you see people are choosing Katikiro, Maiga of Naimbo. Katikiro Maiga has done a great job. He must be lauded. Uganda, under Mwanyi Tedimba program, has done a tremendous job. By the way, people lost trust in government. Just like you remember, when they brought vaccine, people said, now those people have brought vaccine. Some of you are never going to produce again. Others are not going to, you know. But when you have a credible institution like Uganda Monarchy coming up, Uganda Kingdom coming up, it whips interest. So the contribution of the Uganda Monarchy in all this, as because it has got the trust of its people, because it has got the confidence of its people, it therefore has whipped renewed interest in coffee growing and processing. You cannot wish away that role. You cannot just say, who is this particular? Who is this? No. He has done a tremendous job in encouraging coffee growing and working together with UCDA. So the tribal overtones that we now see are deplorable. They are regrettable, and we have also written about it in this book, which journalists seriously you must take interest. You must interest us. We have written about this one. Page 7. Page 7 in this transition. We talk about we are proposing a national reconciliation program initiated and directed by the sitting government. You had the Honorable Mao. Mr. Mao's submission in Parliament was very, very also regrettable. He said, you know, for us in northern Uganda, these colonialists gave us on the guns and put us in the military. What? And now they brought the nice things, coffee growing to Uganda. How can a national leader? How can a national leader make such a comment? Moreover, of the top party in Uganda, number one of the most original party. And now, you know, these fellows, now, for us, they gave us guns and they took us to the military. And now they bahali batitibya this baganda, now they gave them coffee. That is not necessary. So you can see that these years of animal state, these years of bad feeling have brought about this kind of state. Now we need reconciliation. And we say it here. We need reconciliation, please. Interest yourself in this one. Confessions. There have been victims, I know. So the nation needs to heal from the colonial past. The nation needs to heal from what has been perceived as economic injustice. It needs to heal from the mismanagement of the colonial administration and of the past. And we give the formula here. We do give the formula here. Now, we should encourage the debate, not degenerate into that, because it's a debate about economics and improvement of a product value chain. Now, finally, the DP Bloc is advising, is making this very powerful recommendation. We are recommending and advising government to withdraw the coffee bill. Withdraw immediately. Let's not even debate this further. Let's not even take it to that third reading. Why? Just withdraw. More independence, more autonomy, and self-sustenance in line with the 10-point program. Independent, integrated, and self-sustained. How can these fellows who are talking about independent, integrated, and now be in the reverse? You remember, you know the 10-point program? Point number 10. You need to be the DP Bloc now to teach the NRM of the 10-point program. This is very interesting. So you need to have this body autonomous and independent. And by the way, it has been proven it can also be self-sustaining. 2, we are saying that UCDA must be returned to the CMB frame. You remember the CMB, it was a coffee marketing board. The frame of the coffee marketing board was CMB was a regulatory body, but owned and fully controlled by the stakeholders who was the coffee farmer. And the coffee farmer was doing it through the cooperatives. The cooperatives had a bigger stake in CMB. They were the ones who actually recommended the board, number 1. 2, even the managers. So, and the CMB was sustained again by the coffee farmer. Why? Because there was a charge. There was a charge from all the exports that could now come back to run the administrative affairs of CMB. Now, what happened when CMB was resolved? What happened is that these people brought to UCDA. Now, UCDA is not owned by the farmer. It's not controlled by the farmer. It's controlled by the government. The government appoints the board. The government appoints the MD. The government appoints the management. The government even gives the goals. The government can stop UCDA from doing something that they don't want, which may be in the interest of the farmer. Now, what are we saying? UCDA must be maintained, but in the law, it must be returned to the frame of CMB, where it is autonomous, it is independent, it is self-sustaining, it is controlled by the farmer. The farmer must have a bigger stake, because in any case, his money sustains it. And it is working in the interest of the ordinary farmer. Who is the producer? Government has got no coffee farm. Even a grain of coffee that is producing. So here the interest is for a farmer. Now the other element, of course, is that government must provide more funding by restoring that cess. You remember the cess? You remember the cess? The cess was a service charge.
Coffee export service.
Initially it was 1%, by the time it was scrapped it was 2%. It was actually going to 2.5%. Cess was a charge on coffee exports. It was 1% on coffee exports, which was to cater for UCDA administrative expenditure. Now the Minister of Finance has scrapped this one. But before, UCDA was self-sustaining with this charge. It could undertake its operation by just that 1% charge. Now, what was the argument of the Minister of Finance? The Minister of Finance was saying now, you know, you are taking 1%, now you are taking 2.5%, and now with the growing exports, you are taking too much money. Now bring that to the central pool, which is a consolidated what? Fund. But when it goes there, it doesn't come out. For them, they eat it. They give it to Rocco. They give it to Today. They give it to Atiak. Instead of returning it to UCDA for it to continue performing its sectoral functions. So what are we saying? In order to have UCDA as self-sustaining, let us reintroduce that cess. Even if it is 1%, even if it is 0.15%, that fund, given the increasing volumes, will be able to sustain the operations of UCDA and make it self-sustaining. And we are also saying that now all the other functions of CMB, former CMB, must be restored to UCDA. You remember? Quality control, marketing, export. Actually, at the time of dissolution of CMB, it was even a processing. It had the best processing plant. South of the Sahara. We don't know. We have not had a report of what has happened to the plant. One of the most modern coffee processing plants on the African continent was at Bugolobi. Now, can you imagine somebody transforming a coffee processing plant into Agoa? Aprons, making aprons and t-shirts and gowns. Can you imagine? And why the machine?
Now the Americans have experienced.
Oh, and now Americans are saying you cannot participate in Agoa. But look at it, 1.5 billion industry. You are mismanaging. We need to take charge very soon, gentlemen and ladies.
For sure.
Yes. Now, give UCDF 5-year targets. We must give it targets. It's about volumes. Because Museven has been saying, you know, now has it not been for my role? There wouldn't be volumes. Because it is me who intervened in NADS, it is me who intervened in with the OWC. No, but you are overstepping your roles. You are actually interfering. You are actually duplicating. All that could be done by UCDA if you had focused it properly, funded it properly, and directed it properly. So, that's the final position of the DP block on this one. We want to interest you media to amplify this position. First of all, our position on coffee. We would like to implore you and request you to also amplify the proposed national transition, reform and reconciliation agenda. Why? Most of the solutions and the challenges that are daunting Uganda today are found here.
Yes.
Let's just implement this, and Uganda will be a better place for all of us.
Thank you very much. That was Honorable Marike. That's our position, and you'll access it through this press release. I want to invite Honorable Muka.